In 1901, Greek divers found what looked like a 2,000-year-old computer. In 1936, archaeologists discovered an ancient battery. And in 1852, miners blasted open a rock and found a decorated metal vase from 570 million years ago before humans even existed. Tonight, we're showing you 10 artifacts that completely shatter everything you think you know about history. The Antikythera mechanism. In the spring of 1901, a team of Greek sponge divers, led by Captain Dimitrios Kontos, was blown off course by a violent storm in the Aegean Sea. Seeking shelter near the remote island of Antikythera, they decided to explore the waters. A diver named Elias Stadiatos descended into the depths and returned to the surface moments later, pale and babbling of a horrifying sight, a heap of naked, rotting corpses on the seafloor. It was not a mass grave, but the wreck of a massive Roman cargo ship, its bronze and marble statues scattered across the seabed. Tucked within its countless plundered treasures was an unassuming fist-sized lump of corroded bronze, a find that would ultimately shatter our understanding of the ancient world's technological prowess. For decades, it sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, dismissed by many as little more than a calcified, uninteresting relic from the wreck. It was a shoebox-sized chunk of green-tinged metal, its secrets locked away and cemented together by 2,000 years of undersea corrosion. But here's where it gets really weird. Beginning in the 1970s, researchers used advanced X-rays and computed tomography scans to peer inside the lump without destroying it. What they found was not simple metal, but a breathtakingly complex system of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, wheels, and pointers crafted with a precision that would not be seen again until the advent of the great cathedral clocks of 14th century Europe. This was no mere trinket or simple astrolabe, it was an astronomical calculator of staggering genius, an analog computer from the 2nd century B.C. Its intricate dials and pointers could predict the positions of the sun, the moon, and the 5 planets visible to the naked eye. It could forecast lunar and solar eclipses with pinpoint accuracy, accounting for the subtle wobble in the moon's orbit. It even tracked the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. And here's what should terrify you. Nothing else like it exists from the ancient world. Not even a single mention in any surviving text from Cicero, Pliny, or any other chronicler of the era. It is a technological leap of more than 1,000 years, a ghost of a forgotten genius appearing completely out of context. It's as if someone found a jet engine in a medieval castle, with no evidence of the factories, the science, or the knowledge needed to create it. What other knowledge, what other marvels of engineering have been lost to the depths of time? The Antikythera mechanism suggests our timeline of technological progress might not be a straight line, but a complex story with entire chapters, perhaps entire libraries torn out. The Voynich manuscript. Picture this. A book filled with elegant, looping script, pages of fantastical plants that match no known species, and intricate astronomical charts of unknown constellations. Sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, right? The only problem? For over 600 years, since it first surfaced in the early 15th century, no one, not the world's best cryptographers, not artificial intelligence, not teams of dedicated linguists has been able to decipher a single word. The Voynich manuscript is a complete and utter enigma, a 240-page book written in a language that, according to all of human history, officially doesn't exist. Named after the Polish bookseller Wilfrid Voynich, who acquired it in 1912, the manuscript was initially dismissed by some as an elaborate, meaningless hoax, a forger's masterpiece. But wait, it gets worse. Its smooth calfskin pages are filled with illustrations that only deepen the mystery. There are entire botanical sections with detailed drawings of plants that are a botanist's nightmare, combining roots, leaves, and flowers from different, unrelated families. There are astrological diagrams of zodiacs we don't recognize, filled with unfamiliar symbols. And there are bizarre biological sketches of dozens of small, naked figures bathing in strange, interconnected green fluids, flowing through a network of pipes that resemble internal organs. But the true, impenetrable mystery is the text itself. The script, now known as Voynichese, flows with an effortless, organic quality, as if written by a fluent scribe. Exhaustive statistical analysis shows that it follows the same mathematical patterns of real human languages. It obeys Zipf's law, a principle where the most frequent word appears twice as often as the second most frequent, 3 times as often as the third, and so on. This makes a simple, gibberish hoax incredibly unlikely. Here's the part that should keep you awake at night. The world's most brilliant codebreakers, including the same American and British minds that cracked the German Enigma and Japanese Purple codes during the World Wars, have come away with absolutely nothing. Is it a lost language from a forgotten culture? Is it an unbreakable cipher hiding some world-altering knowledge? Or is it the brilliant, incomprehensible fantasy of a lone genius, a language invented for a world that never was? The manuscript now sits in Yale University's Voynich library, a silent testament to a message locked away from the entire world. What profound knowledge, or what beautiful nonsense, lies just beyond the limits of our understanding? The Baghdad Battery. From a machine that charted the heavens to a book that hides its meaning, these first artifacts show knowledge lost to time. But what if the forgotten wisdom wasn't complex thought, but a fundamental spark of science itself? What if our ancestors harnessed a force we thought was only tamed in the modern age? In a dusty basement of the National Museum of Iraq in Baghdad sat a simple clay pot no larger than a human fist. You'd walk right past it. It looks like nothing more than ancient pottery, completely unremarkable. Found during a 1936 excavation of a 2,000-year-old village near Baghdad, its unassuming appearance caused it to be catalogued with other mundane pottery for decades. But here's where everything changes. Inside this ordinary pot, a copper cylinder and an iron rod hinted at a purpose so unbelievable it was dismissed for decades by mainstream archaeology as a simple storage vessel, nothing more. The artifact, now known as the Baghdad Battery, dates back to the Parthian period, around 200 BC. The jar was sealed with an asphalt plug, which held an iron rod suspended perfectly in the center of a copper cylinder, with neither metal touching the other. To a modern eye, the design is unmistakable and almost shockingly familiar. It's a galvanic cell, the basic principle of an electrical battery, invented, or so we are told, by Alessandro Volta in 1800. Wait, it gets really weird. When archaeologists and modern scientists built replicas and filled them with a simple acidic liquid that would have been available at the time, like grape juice or vinegar, the device worked. It produced a small but steady electric current of about 0.5 volt. So here's the question that changes everything. For what purpose did an ancient culture generate electrical power? There are no 2,000-year-old wires, no filaments, no light bulbs. Was it used for electroplating, a process called gilding, to apply thin layers of gold or silver onto jewelry? Some artifacts from the period do show evidence of remarkably fine gilding. Or was its purpose more esoteric, used by priests in temples to create a subtle, tingling sensation to awe followers and demonstrate the power of their gods? The problem is the profound, deafening silence. Not a single text from the era, not a single piece of pottery or art mentions such a device or hints at a knowledge of electricity. It's a technology without a user manual, a piece of science without a science. The Baghdad Battery exists as a solitary anomaly, a quiet suggestion that somewhere in the ancient world, someone understood a fundamental force of the universe, only for that knowledge to vanish so completely it had to be rediscovered 2 millennia later. The Roman dodecahedrons. Scattered across the northern frontiers of the former Roman Empire, from the windswept fields of Wales to the riverbanks of Hungary, small, hollow bronze objects are unearthed. Each one has 12 flat pentagonal faces, a different-sized hole in each face, and small decorative knobs at every corner. They look like some kind of ancient toy or decoration, right? Wrong. Not a single Roman text, from military manuals to personal letters, ever mentions what they are for. These are the Roman dodecahedrons, and they are a perfect historical void. At first glance, they might seem like decorative toys, paperweights, or easily dismissed curiosities. But their persistence and peculiar design suggest a specific, lost purpose that's driving archaeologists absolutely insane. But here's what makes this truly disturbing. Over 100 have been found, all dating from the 2nd to 4th centuries A.D. They are objects of clear craftsmanship and precise geometry, requiring a significant effort to cast in bronze and finish. Someone spent serious time and money making these things. And yet, their purpose is a complete, and total mystery. The theories are as numerous as the artifacts themselves, and every single one falls apart under scrutiny. Are they decorative candlestick holders? Possibly, but wax residue is very rarely found inside them, and the varying hole sizes don't seem practical for holding standard candles. Are they a range-finding device for Roman artillery? The non-standardized sizes of the holes and the objects themselves make this highly unlikely, as military equipment demands uniformity. Some have proposed they were used to calibrate water pipes, or were the heads of ceremonial scepters, or even a tool for knitting the fingers of Roman gloves. But for every theory, there's a fatal flaw. And here's the part that should really mess with your head. Why are almost none of them found in Italy, the very heart of the Roman Empire? Their heavy concentration in the northern provinces of Gaul and Britannia has led some historians to a tantalizing conclusion: that they weren't truly Roman at all, but objects belonging to the local Celtic cultures, perhaps used for ritual or fortune-telling in their syncretic Gallo-Roman religion. What purpose was so secret, or conversely, so commonplace and obvious to the people who used them, that it was never considered worthy of being written down? The dodecahedrons remain a silent testament to a purpose we can't even begin to guess at, a tool whose use has been so utterly erased from history that all we have left is the puzzle piece itself. The Piri Reis map. The Romans left us a puzzle with no instructions, but our next artifact is even more baffling, a map that shouldn't be possible, showing a world that no one of the era should have been able to see. You'd think mapping Antarctica would be pretty straightforward, right? Find the continent, chart the coastline, done. Except Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820. So explain this. In the year 1513, an Ottoman admiral and master cartographer named Piri Reis created a stunningly detailed map of the world that includes a stunningly accurate coastline of Antarctica 300 years before the continent was officially discovered. But wait, it gets impossibly worse. The map appears to show this landmass as it would look without its vast, mile-thick ice sheet, depicting coastlines that have been buried under ice for at least 6,000 years. Drawn on a sheet of gazelle skin, the Piri Reis map is a surviving fragment of a much larger world chart. In his own detailed notes written on the map itself, the admiral stated that he compiled it from about 20 older source maps. Some, he claimed, dated back to the time of Alexander the Great, while others were captured from contemporary European explorers. For centuries, it was regarded as a historical curiosity, a beautiful but geographically flawed example of 16th century cartography. But in the 20th century, cartographers and historians, including Professor Charles Hapgood, noticed something that should be impossible. The map's southern edge depicts a landmass where Antarctica should be, showing a coastline that strikingly resembles the subglacial topography of Queen Maud, the specific coastline that has been buried under a thick sheet of ice for at least 6,000 years. Here's what should terrify you. The details are too precise for a lucky guess or a fantastical invention. So how could a 16th century admiral working in Constantinople draw the subglacial topography of a continent that no one in his world knew existed? The map forces a choice between two equally unbelievable conclusions. Either it's a series of stunning coincidences and misinterpretations of the South American coastline, or Piri Reis had access to knowledge from a lost, ancient seafaring culture with a sophisticated understanding of global geography and advanced mapping techniques. What forgotten age of exploration left behind this single surviving page from a library of knowledge we thought had been lost to time forever? The Sajama lines. In the desolate, wind-swept highlands of Bolivia, a vast network of perfectly straight lines stretches across the arid landscape for thousands upon thousands of miles. You might think they're roads, but they often lead nowhere. They're not irrigation channels. And here's the kicker, they are virtually invisible from the ground, making them impossible to fully appreciate unless you're flying overhead. So who made them? And perhaps more importantly, who are they for? From the ground, they appear as almost meaningless scratches in the dirt and rock, easily mistaken for game trails or natural erosion. But from the air, a completely different and breathtaking story emerges. For a period of over 3,000 years, the indigenous people living near the sacred Sajama volcano painstakingly created this colossal work of geoglyphic art by scraping away the dark, oxidized surface rock and vegetation to reveal the lighter, sandy soil beneath. But here's where it gets really weird. The network consists of thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, of individual lines, some running perfectly straight for up to 10 miles, ignoring hills, valleys, and difficult terrain with an unwavering precision. Together, they cover an area of nearly 9,000 square miles, forming an intricate web that is 16 times larger than the more famous Nazca lines of neighboring Peru. Unlike Nazca, however, the Sajama lines don't form pictures of animals or symbols. They are pure abstract geometry on an unimaginable scale. Many of the lines radiate from central points, often hilltops or ancient burial towers known as chulpas, connecting ancient shrines and villages, suggesting they had a deeply spiritual purpose. Here's what should keep you awake at night. Were they sacred pathways or seques for ancient pilgrims to walk during religious ceremonies? Or were they a form of celestial map, a massive calendar tracking the movements of the sun, moon, and stars during solstices and equinoxes? The sheer scale, the immense labor involved, and the fact that their true geometric form can only be appreciated from a high altitude has led to radical speculation that they were intended for something or someone to see from high above. What message were they trying to send to the sky? The civilization that built them, the ancestors of the modern Aymara people, left no written record to explain their monumental creation. The Sajama lines remain a silent, geometric web laid across the earth, a message with no known author and no discernible recipient, etched for an audience we may never comprehend. The Quimbaya artifacts. Deep in the tombs of a forgotten South American culture, small, shimmering golden figurines were found. For decades, archaeologists confidently filed them away as zoomorphic, or animal-shaped, stylized insects or birds, case closed. Simple, primitive art from a simple, primitive culture. But when you look closer, past the dusty museum label and the academic certainty, that simple explanation begins to fall apart entirely. The Quimbaya civilization of ancient Colombia crafted these objects around 1000 AD, and they possess features that seem jarringly modern and distinctly mechanical. Their wings are not feathered, membranous, or veined like those of a bird or insect. They are sharp, deltoid, and swept back, almost identical in shape to the wings on a modern supersonic jet fighter. They have a distinct vertical stabilizer and a horizontal tail fin. Structures essential for stable flight in modern aircraft, but a configuration rarely seen together in the animal kingdom. They even feature what looks for all the world like a distinct fuselage and a cockpit. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-bending. This isn't just a case of modern projection or seeing faces in the clouds. In the 1990s, German aeronautical engineers Peter Belting and Konrad Lubbers became fascinated by the artifacts, arguing that if they looked like airplanes, they should be tested like airplanes. They built precisely scaled-up models of the artifacts and equipped them with propellers and engines. The results were astounding. They flew perfectly. Their proportions were not just artistic, they were aerodynamically sound. These weren't just pretty decorations, they were perfect blueprints for functional aircraft. So here's the question that changes everything. What did the Quimbaya artists see 1,000 years ago that inspired these creations? Were they simply masters of stylized art, creating a hybrid of a bird and a fish that just happens to perfectly mirror the principles of modern aviation by sheer chance? Or were these golden objects effigies, small replicas of something they, or their ancestors, actually witnessed in the skies above? What forgotten sky did they remember? They are either the product of an impossible coincidence or a chillingly accurate memory of a technology that had no business existing in the ancient world. It's a riddle cast in solid gold, a silent testament to a forgotten sky. The Cochno stone. From lines etched into the earth for an unknown god, to golden jets mimicking a forgotten sky, these artifacts blur the line between symbol and reality. But our next mystery wasn't carved for the heavens. It was carved in stone, a message from our most distant ancestors, only to be deliberately hidden from the modern world. For 5,000 years, a sprawling, gently sloping slab of rock in West Dunbartonshire, Scotland, lay covered in a beautiful and baffling array of spirals, rings, and dots. You'd think something that survived 5 millennia would be treasured and displayed, right? Wrong. In 1965, to protect it from a modern world that couldn't stop damaging it, archaeologists made a controversial and heart-wrenching decision. They buried it. But here's what makes this absolutely infuriating. Now, one of the world's most mysterious Neolithic messages is hidden from sight, its secrets deliberately silenced by the very people trying to save it. The Cochno stone is one of the finest and most complex examples of Neolithic cup and ring mark art in all of Europe. Measuring 43 feet by 26, its vast surface is a complex canvas of over 90 carved symbols, painstakingly pecked into the hard rock by our ancestors in the Stone Age. These aren't random doodles, they are a deliberate, intricate design that has puzzled researchers for over a century since it was first excavated by the Reverend James Harvey in 1887. The carvings have been interpreted as everything from a map of the stars to a map of the Earth. Some astronomers believe the spirals and cups align perfectly with celestial constellations visible in the Neolithic sky, representing a prehistoric star chart or a solar calendar. Others argue it's a terrestrial map of the surrounding area, with the cups representing settlements or homesteads, and the lines representing boundaries or pathways. But here's what should really disturb you. Still others believe it was a ritualistic artifact, its symbols holding a profound spiritual meaning related to birth, death, and rebirth that is now utterly lost to us. By the mid-20th century, the exposed stone was suffering. It was being vandalized with graffiti, and people walking across its surface were wearing down the ancient carvings. In a desperate act of preservation, archaeologists from the University of Glasgow buried it under several feet of soil. The decision saved the stone from further destruction, but entombed its message along with it. It is a profound and tragic historical irony. An ancient puzzle, a 5,000-year-old message from the dawn of civilization, was ultimately protected by hiding it away from humanity forever. What profound knowledge lies sleeping beneath that quiet Scottish field? One of Scotland's greatest prehistoric treasures now lies sleeping beneath a quiet field, waiting for the day we develop the technology to unearth it once more and finally listen to what it has to say. The Ubaid figurines. Before the first kings of Sumeria, before the great ziggurats and the walls of Babylon, another people lived and thrived in the fertile crescent of Mesopotamia. They seem harmless enough at first, just another ancient culture that lived and died and left behind some pottery. They left no written words to tell their story, no great monuments to their leaders. But in their ancient graves, they left a gallery of small terracotta figures so strange they haunt us to this day. Humanoid bodies with the unsettling, non-human heads of lizards. Unearthed from the sands of modern-day Iraq at the archaeological site of Tel al-Ubaid, these figurines date back 7,000 years, to a foundational culture that bears their name. Initially catalogued by archaeologists as primitive ritual dolls or idols, their specific features suggest something far more deliberate and perplexing. But here's where it gets really disturbing. They depict both male and female figures in formal, almost regal poses. But their heads are unnervingly non-human, elongated and reptilian, with sharp snouts, sloping foreheads, and wide, staring eyes that resemble coffee beans. Some wear strange bitumen helmets, while others have pronounced knobs or cones on their shoulders. Perhaps the most bizarre and evocative of all is a female figure, recognizably humanoid with breasts, who is cradling and nursing a baby that shares the same unsettling, lizard-like head. These are not crude, amateurish creations. They are highly stylized and consistent across multiple burial sites. They were made by the Ubaid people, a foundational culture whose innovations in agriculture and pottery paved the way for the great Mesopotamian civilizations that followed. So here's the question that should keep you awake at night. What did these disturbing figures represent? Were they statues of their gods, a pantheon of reptilian deities they worshipped? Or were they depictions of a mythological race, a lost story of serpent people they believed were their ancestors? Maybe something else entirely, something we can't even imagine. What secrets did they take to the grave? The Ubaid people left no script. Their beliefs, their myths, their entire cosmology, all of it is gone. These silent, enigmatic figures are one of their only surviving messages. They are a question cast in clay, a haunting glimpse into the dreams and perhaps the nightmares of a people who existed at the very dawn of civilization itself. We can only look at their serpent-headed statues and wonder what secrets they took with them to the grave. The Dorchester pot. These figures haunt us with their silence. A 7,000-year-old question cast in clay, but our final artifact doesn't just question a single culture's beliefs. It questions the entire undisputed timeline of life on Earth. In 1852, miners blasting rock in the Dorchester neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts, made a discovery that, if true, should not be possible. You'd think finding something in a rock would be pretty straightforward. Rocks are old. Whatever's in them is old too, right? But this discovery doesn't just break our understanding of history. It completely obliterates our understanding of life itself. During construction work, a powerful explosion was detonated to clear away a massive boulder of solid rock. When the smoke cleared and the dust settled, they saw that the boulder had been split cleanly in two. Embedded deep within the newly exposed matrix of the stone was a small, intricately decorated metal vase. But here's where everything goes insane. The rock itself was identified as Roxbury Pudding Stone, a geological conglomerate formation scientifically dated to the Ediacaran period, over 570 million years ago. The object, reported in the June 5th, 1852 issue of Scientific American, was a bell-shaped vessel just 4.5 inches high, composed of a zinc and silver alloy. Its surface was exquisitely detailed with inlaid silver floral patterns in a delicate vine motif. The story presented a geological and historical impossibility that should make your blood run cold. According to our entire understanding of evolution and the fossil record, no humans, let alone humans capable of advanced metallurgy and fine art, existed 500 million years ago. The planet was still in the Precambrian era. Complex life was just beginning to emerge in the oceans in the form of simple multicellular organisms. Flowers, the very patterns decorating this vase, wouldn't evolve for another 400 million years. Naturally, the find was met with extreme skepticism, both then and now. The most rational explanation is that the object was not truly embedded inside the stone. It was likely a contemporary item, perhaps a Victorian-era candlestick holder or pipe piece, that was lying on the ground nearby, and simply fell into the rubble created by the blast, giving the illusion of having been inside it. This is the logical explanation, the one that keeps our timeline of history neatly intact. And yet, the eyewitnesses, the workmen on the site, were adamant. They swore they saw the pot freed from the solid matrix of the stone where it had rested for untold eons. Their testimony is all that remains, because the pot itself has long since vanished, passing through several private hands before disappearing entirely, becoming a legend whispered among historians of the strange. Here's what should terrify you. It has become a phantom artifact, a story of a flower forged in metal from a time before flowers, or even land animals, had evolved. It leaves us with a stark and uncomfortable choice: to believe in a simple mistake made in the heat and confusion of a moment, or to accept a relic that completely rewrites the history of life on Earth. A clockwork computer from ancient Greece. A golden jet from pre-Columbian America. A vase from a time before humanity. On their own, each is a historical curiosity, a puzzle to be debated by academics in dusty journals. But taken together, they begin to paint a disturbing and profound picture. Here's what keeps me awake at night. If we found these 10 impossible artifacts by accident, what else is out there? What's buried under our cities, locked in ice, or sitting in some collector's basement right now? Because if history can lie to us about a 2,000-year-old computer, what else has it been hiding? They suggest that our neat, linear timeline of progress from primitive to advanced is a comforting fiction we tell ourselves. They hint that history is not a straight line, but a labyrinth, filled with dead ends, forgotten paths, and brilliant flashes of genius that were extinguished and lost to time, perhaps for millennia. And the scariest part? We might be living in the dark age of a civilization that was once far more advanced than we ever imagined. It's possible that high civilizations have risen and fallen, leaving behind only these enigmatic ghosts, these impossible artifacts that defy our neat categorization. The real mystery isn't just what these objects are or how they were made. It's what they represent, a past that was far stranger, more complex, and perhaps more advanced than we've ever been told. And it forces us to wonder, what other impossible things are still out there, buried in the sand or lost in the deep, waiting to be found and to break our timeline all over again? What do you think is the most terrifying artifact on this list? Let me know in the comments, because next week we're diving into the artifacts that governments don't want you to see.